than halfway there. Governor Larry Hogan tweeting yesterday that 53% of adults in the state have received at least one shot of COVID vaccine. About 28% of the state is fully vaccinated overall, with most Marylanders receiving one of the two-shot vaccines. The state now averaging about 65,000 shots a day, with all people 16 and older now eligible to receive their shots for
who wants the vaccine and get their first shot by the end of May.
That new center will open tomorrow. If you're heading back to your office soon, you may be wondering if you'll need to get vaccinated first.
Employers do have a right to ask their employees if they have been vaccinated and to ask for proof of vaccination.
But employers need to follow HIPAA rules, according to Montgomery County's Director of Labor Relations and Public Safety, Sylvia Kinch. She says at a town hall,
if a person is unable to be vaccinated for whatever reason, the employer needs to be willing to make an accommodation for that individual.
She says accommodations are required for people who can't be vaccinated because of medical conditions or religious beliefs. Heather Curtis on WMAL and WMAL.com.
Even as Montgomery County brings its final groups of students back into classrooms today, one local parents group fears it's too little too late.
You know, I predict that we're going to be way behind all these other states that have opened sooner. You know, Maryland has been this outlier, and we're going to be paying the price for years.
The infectious disease scientist Marjorie Smeltings grouped together
Rhetoric, the last portion is
The Dow futures are down 46, the NASDAQ futures down 59. Traffic and weather next.
Boat in the Suez Canal. Yes, she certainly did. Jonathan Capehart praising Democrat member of Congress Maxine Waters for inciting violence, mob violence, riots against the police. Well, guardsmen are being shot at in Minneapolis, and we're just warming up. The Democrats, they're a bit temperamental, to be fair to say, burning city after city. The news media, what did I see today? That now, they were talking about having a 9/11 commission for the 9/11 style commission, September 11th style commission on Capitol Hill to look into the January 6th riot at the Capitol. And now I saw somewhere that phony, baloney, corrupt, loser media that the Democrats are cooling to that now. There's a lot of hysteria back then. But now they're watching left-wing black activists that started the rumor. But that doesn't matter, really, because it's just what they call people, because that's the way you go. That's our Democrat Party today, isn't it? They're something. They're a humdinger. And when I say a humdinger, I think you have some idea what I'm talking about, don't you? And Joe Biden, he's doing very well. He's the greatest. Well, where's the story? There's a kind of a funny story today. It's unintentionally funny, naturally, as is so often the case. But the media today saying that as Biden approaches his 100th day in office, Republicans admit difficulties in attacking his agenda. Difficulties. Republicans admit it's a confession, an admission of sorts. They're admitting that they're having difficulties attacking his agenda. Well, you guys aren't covering the border. You're not covering crime and mayhem and the insanity and all the mass shootings. What do we have? How many mass shootings since Joe Biden took office? The number is off the charts. And just extraordinary stuff. We'll get to that as well. But with the Republicans having trouble attacking this thing. John Boehner on with Chunk yesterday. Chunk on NBC fake news on Face the Meat the Face. He had John Boehner on, who was looking tan, rested, and ready to do something. And he is like what was that movie Bulworth? He's like Bulworth in this one. He's just the old politician who doesn't care what he says. He just says whatever's on his mind. And he called Chunk Todd a curse word yesterday, right there live on the television. The S word, it's a 4-letter word, and he called him that word a couple of times, and asked if he if he was going to run for office again. He had an interesting kind of Buddhist monk response to that as well. You may have noticed that, Joe, but we'll get to that. You may have noticed that Joe Biden's poll numbers are much better than they deserve to be, because he's an awful, terrible, horrible president. Everything's going terribly in the United States since he became president. And yet the news media says that he's doing a great job, man. Isn't this great? He's like Mike Damone in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Hey, isn't this great? I come for the strudel. He is doing an awful, horrible job. The border is an absolute chaos, pandemonium. We had another 10-year-old kid wander up to Border Patrol crying and sobbing yesterday. Another one. Remember, we had the one a couple of weeks ago, sobbing and crying. The coyotes left him in the thing that turned out he may or may not have been held hostage and, had to pay a ransom. Somebody had to pay a ransom. His uncle to get him out. And that story may or may not be true. It's all very complicated. But another kid. Now, what do we have? Like 2.8 million children in concentration camps on the border. It's like Western China down there. But the news media doesn't cover it, and the Democrats don't talk about it. They smile. Nancy Pelosi said last week that things are really great down at the border, and they were terrible under Trump. And the media says, yeah, they were terrible under Trump, and they're great under Biden, because we don't really have a legitimate media. Amazing stuff. But here's a great one that helps explain some of this, really, from the fine people, the excellent people at the Media Research Center. Red Mosell's wonderful organization, and Newsbusters. They track the news media at Newsbusters. And great people, Rich Noyes and Bill D'Agostino. That sounds weird, I know, but when it comes to saving the why do people want to save? Actually taking risks. Savings accounts are not safe from inflation, they're not safe from taxes. There are, in fact, 18 different asset classes. They all have risks. Going through the carpeting and pulling up Parmesan cheese and smoking it in his crack pipe because he's got a very serious drug and alcohol problem, and that's a sad thing. Fortunately, his father is Joe Biden, so he got all these $83,000 a month no-show jobs with Ukrainian gas companies, and I'm a oil and gas man. That's right, Hunter Biden. Remember, he's also the vice chairman of the board. He was the vice chairman of the board of Amtrak. Yes, he's a railroad man too. I'm a railroad man. I'm a oil and gas man. I love that. Is that Hunter Biden coming up behind you? Here he comes, vice chairman of the board of Amtrak. He earned it. He got it like John Houseman. He got it the old-fashioned way. He earned it. And he got that $83,000. It's $83,333 in their Tesla while it was driving itself. And I think it's maybe a little early for that. My brother, I've got a brother who has a self-driving car too. I think it's a Kia. And he sent me pictures. Hey, look, my car's driving itself. And I actually texted back, keep your eyes on the road and your hands upon the wheel. Keep your eyes on the road, your hands upon the wheel. A Tesla crash killed 2 people in Texas. Authorities say nobody was driving, and the fire took 32,000 gallons of water to extinguish. That's because it's an electric car with this battery, and they're filled with toxins, and you got to call the hazmat unit when these, like if a Prius crashes and the battery cracks. It's a terrible thing for the environment, for the environment. Yeah, 2 people died in a crash outside of Houston on Saturday after the Tesla they were driving ran off the road. Of course, they weren't driving. Nobody was driving the car. Authorities told locals, were they in the back doing something? What was going on back there? Tesla has come under fire for the way some drivers abuse driver assistance technology and autopilot. 2 people are dead in Texas after the Tesla they were riding in, you can't say they were driving it, hopped a curb, crashed into a tree, burst into flames. Have you seen the video? It's like a Hollywood crash. Cars don't catch on fire like this except in Hollywood, and apparently in Texas, because this thing went up into flames like nobody's business. The crash occurred on Saturday evening in Spring, Texas, a Houston suburb, when a Tesla traveling at high speed failed to negotiate a bend in the road and went off the road. Local television station KHOU reports. Once the blaze was put out, first responders found the bodies of 2 men, one in the passenger seat, one in the back seat of the Tesla. Nobody driving. You think this is pretty cool. Hey, look, my car can drive itself. We don't even have, I can just sit over here and text, and the car's going to drive us there. Judging by the physical evidence and the construction of the reconstruction of the incident, investigators concluded there was nobody in the driver's seat at the time of the crash. They're 100% certain no one was in the driver's seat of the vehicle at the time of impact. The spokesman for the state told KHOU they feel very confident, just with the positioning of the bodies over the impact, that no one was driving the vehicle. Comes amid a spate of Tesla crashes that may have involved autopilot. I'm kind of, my car, I have electric windows in my car, and I'm kind of excited by that. I don't have the crank windows. But beyond that, I don't have satellite, his father's presidency. I do love that smoking cheese, Parmesan cheese thing.
I spent more time on my hands and knees picking through rugs, smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine. I probably smoked more Parmesan cheese than anyone that you know.
And anyone that you know. Probably true. That's right. We're gonna score that. Fact checker scores that one as true. I don't know why there'd be so much Parmesan cheese in the carpet. Why would you? I mean, you take it with a shaver, and if you're doing it like that, otherwise you take it with a spoon and you put it on what you're eating, in your spaghetti or something. But in the carpet, and then you're digging through and you're smoking it. He's an addict. He's an addict. And it's true. He's a terrible addict. Communist Party. And Tony Bobulinski's the CEO, and he says that Joe Biden's getting a 10% cut, that he's big guy in the emails from the laptop left at the Delaware repair shop. None of that is in the Washington Post piece. Hunter blames the Obama administration's ethics standards for derailing his lobbying career, and that's why he had to get the no-show job with Burisma for himself and his buddy. But he later made business deals that left the impression he was trading on his father's influence. No, come on, Washington Post, don't go down that road. The obvious must continue to elude you day after day. Boy, these guys are something. He seems aware that Biden's connections helped him. No, he says, there's no question that my last name was a coveted credential. Really? Even though he insists that his accomplishments should stand on their own. Right, well, you're a crackhead bringing in $83,300 a month for a no-show job in Ukraine, which is under investigation by the country's chief prosecutor. And your father ordered the government to fire the chief prosecutor while he was investigating the company that was paying you $83,000 a month for a no-show job. And then they fired him, and you kept collecting the paychecks. No one should go away with a misimpression of that he cut. And then the Air Force Two trip and the meeting with the China, and then he lied about having meetings with the Chinese officials. No, this is no problem. And he was the vice chairman of the board of Amtrak because, why not? Why the heck not? All right, let's go to, I have too many things to get to, too much audio. Let's go to, let's go to, is Joe in Washington, D.C.? Is he back? Joe in Washington, D.C. Joe, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm great, Joe. What do you say?
Hey, I got two things I'd like to talk to you about.
Sure.
I'd like to know what society's long-term plan is with the police. I mean, all you have to do is turn on the news, open the paper, go on a blog, and see where the crime rate is, and see the things that are going on. Chris, there are a lot of hard-working police officers out here that are out here day and night, 24/7, and putting their lives on the line, away from their families, and taking chances that most ordinary people can't even imagine, the positions that they get put into. And society is going to have to think long and hard. And my second point, Chris, is this. To all these folks out here, the politicians, the people that don't like the police, why don't you bring us 10 qualified people and we'll hire them and we will bring them in, and that's how you can start change. Bring us qualified people to hire.
Like Madonna, like Hunter Biden.
Well, I'm not saying all that. I'm saying bring us 10 qualified people that we can hire and put them on the street, and they can start making the change that they want to see. But until then, we're out here doing what we're doing, and I thank God for all the people that wear that uniform and keep society safe. Because a lot of people out here still do support the police.
Well, I tell you, whenever I see police officers out on the street, I go up to people and say thanks for being the police or words to that effect. And I can't tell you how many times it's been met with like a roll of the eyes and shaking the head and saying with something like, you have no idea what it's like out here these days. And I know it. I've got friends who are cops. Out to lunch with a police officer friend last week, out a different one. Actually, two different cops last week, and it is absolutely crazy out there. And across the country, I've been talking about it. Homicide rates are skyrocketing across the country. Carjackings are skyrocketing across the country. They're skyrocketing in Washington D.C. They're the mayhem and the madness, the attacks on police. I've been talking about today. The riots, the mayhem, and Joe. I'm guessing you're a police officer, or you're close to police officers. The Democrat Party is a violently anti-police party.
Yeah. You know, I don't know what the answers are anymore, Chris. It does bring in the police officer, and I'm proud to say it. I've been out here for 31 years, going on 32. I love my job. I love interacting with the public. You know, like any other first responder, we've all been in it from one time to another. The chances that we take, the situations that we get put into, and, you know, we still keep coming back. You know, my brain tells me to retire. It says, Joe, you need to go. But my heart won't let me, because I talk to a lot of citizens that say, hey, Joe, hey, officer, I appreciate you being out here. Thank you very much. We need more officers like you. And there are a lot of us out here, each and every day, Chris, 24/7. And, you know, it's getting harder and harder. But the harder it gets, the harder you work. You know, I can't let somebody tell me that, you know, don't do your job. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You just keep coming to work and you just keep doing it. But all those folks out there that support us, thank you. And keep supporting us. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for you. And we will be here for you. And it's not going to stop. But I go back
200% in Los Angeles. Maxine Waters is flying to, we're not supposed to fly, flying to Minneapolis to fan the flames of mayhem there. And closing arguments begin today in Minneapolis in the Chauvin case. And yeah, do they want violence? They certainly seem to want a great deal of violence. But isn't it fascinating, Katie? And I've run up the clock on you, I'm sorry, but isn't it fascinating that the only riot you hear about is January 6th, where they keep saying that 5 people were killed, 2 heart attacks, 1 drug overdose, 1 shot by the police, and 1 died the next day, and we still don't know why, maybe of a stroke. But the media still peddles this. 5 people were killed on January 6th at that terrible riot there. Dozens, literally, have been killed, 2 dozen at least, in the left-wing riots. Thousands, literally, more than 2,000 police officers injured in the left-wing riots. Thousands of businesses looted and burned, and it's as though none of that has ever happened. You know, these are not the droids you're looking for. The phony baloney Democrat media industrial complex ignores half the news.
Washington's Mall, 105.9 FM, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.
It was on this date, April 19th, in 1775, the first shot of the American Revolution was fired. The shot heard round the world, as it was called, changed human history. For the betterment of humankind, the left is here to undo whatever they can. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Josie, calling from Pensacola, Florida. Josie, thank you for hanging in there.
Hey, Chris, I know you were talking earlier about Madonna. No one is going to take our Second Amendment, and she doesn't have a clue what a Second Amendment is, first of all. She's too mentally ill, obviously. But she kind of tried to understand that in 2008, my nephew shot his wife. The time he could be shot himself 3 times. Since it's not 100% our second amendment, you can talk to any protection we have as an American citizen of this country.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Where are you from originally, though, Jesse?
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
Nicaragua. I'm from Nicaragua.
From Nicaragua, and you're here to stand up for the Second Amendment because you know the function and the purpose of the Second Amendment, and because you're a great American. And thank you for being a great American, Jesse.
We are one nation under God, indivisible, together. WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington. Now, more than ever, depend on 105.9 FM WMAL, a Cumulus station. News now.
WMAL News at noon. I'm Maria Leaf. The brand new mass vaccination site in Germantown will now only be open 5 days a week. Dr. Earl Stoddard, Director of Emergency Management for the county, says as the state opens more mass vaccination sites, the Germantown site is getting fewer doses.
The mass vaccination site received a 20% reduction from its number last week, from 5,850 doses down to 4,860 doses.
Stoddard says the expected bump in doses from the federal government has not materialized, but some good news for Montgomery County, says Stoddard.
We only had 23 positive cases reported yesterday.
Barbara Britt, WMAL and WMAL.com. An Ohio Republican leaving Congress early, giving Democrats a slightly larger majority.
Ohio Republican Steve Stivers is leaving Congress next month to lead Ohio's Chamber of Commerce.